Tonight, I fired my daughter from the company she thought she ran. She had no idea I still owned 65% of the shares. She had no idea about a lot of things. The call came on a Tuesday morning. I was sitting in my small apartment in Queens, the one-bedroom place I moved to after Margaret passed 3 years ago. I had just finished my oatmeal when my phone rang. The screen showed Jessica Mobile, my daughter. She never called unless she wanted something. "Dad, we need to talk." Her voice had that tone, the one she used in boardrooms. Cold, efficient. "Can you come to my office this afternoon?" "I suppose so," I said. "Is everything all right?" "We'll discuss it when you get here. 2 o'clock. Don't be late." She hung up before I could respond. I looked around my apartment. Modest furniture from IKEA, a 12-year-old television, dishes in the sink. This was where Jessica thought I belonged. An old man in a small apartment, living on Social Security and whatever scraps she decided to send my way. I took the subway to Manhattan, the Q train, then transferred to the 6. 45 minutes of travel that Jessica would never understand. She had her driver, her Tesla, her executive parking spot. The building stood 60 stories tall. Harrison-Meyer Technologies. The name still gave me a quiet satisfaction. Even though most people had forgotten that the Harrison was mine, I built this company from nothing. Started in a garage in 1983. My first employee was Margaret, my wife, who did the books while I soldered circuit boards. Now the lobby had marble floors and a waterfall sculpture that cost more than my yearly pension. The security guard, a young man named Marcus, looked up from his desk. "Can I help you, sir?" "I'm here to see Jessica Harrison-Meyer. I'm her father." He checked his computer, made a call, then handed me a visitor badge. 43rd floor. Visitor badge. I had built this building. I had signed the construction contracts. But I wore a visitor badge. Jessica's office took up half the 43rd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. Her assistant, a sharp woman in her 30s, barely glanced at me. "Miss Harrison-Meyer will see you now." Jessica sat behind a glass desk the size of a dining table. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost $3,000. Her blonde hair, so much like her mother's, was pulled back in a severe bun. She didn't stand when I entered. "Sit down, Dad." I sat in one of the leather chairs facing her desk. She continued typing for another minute, making me wait. Classic power move. I had taught her that back when she first joined the company. Finally, she looked up. "I'll get straight to the point. David and I have been talking." David, her husband, investment banker, believed his MBA from Wharton made him God's gift to business. "We're concerned about you." "Concerned? You're 65 years old, living alone in Queens. That neighborhood isn't safe. The stairs in your building. What if you fall? And honestly, Dad, you're not getting any younger. I manage fine." She pulled out a folder. Inside were glossy brochures. "We've found a wonderful assisted living facility in Connecticut. Meadowbrook, senior community, beautiful grounds, 24-hour medical care, social activities. They have spaces available." I looked at the brochure. Smiling elderly people playing shuffleboard. "I don't need assisted living, Jessica. I'm perfectly healthy. For now. But we need to think ahead. David and I have 2 kids to think about. Madison has college next year. Columbia isn't cheap. And Chase needs private tutoring. We simply don't have the bandwidth to worry about you having a medical emergency in that apartment." Bandwidth. She used that word about her father. "I'm not moving to Connecticut." Her jaw tightened. "Dad, you're being difficult. This isn't a discussion. We've already paid the deposit. You move in on the 1st of next month. And if I refuse?" She leaned back in her chair. "Then we'll have to explore other options. David has a lawyer friend who specializes in elder care. If we determine you're not capable of making sound decisions, we can petition for conservatorship." The room went very quiet. Outside, I could hear the muffled sounds of the city. Car horns, Construction. The pulse of Manhattan. You would do that? For your own good, yes. She closed the folder. Look, I know this seems harsh, but Mom's gone. You're all alone. You're living on what, $1,800 a month from Social Security? That apartment is barely habitable. This is the responsible thing to do. $1,800 a month. She really believed that. What about the company? I asked quietly. What about it? I built this company. With your mother. Before you were born. She sighed. The sigh she gave to tedious topics. Yes, Dad. And you sold it to Meyer Technologies in 2005. You retired. You got your payout, which frankly you should have invested better. Now the company is mine. I'm the CEO. I've grown the revenue by 40% in 3 years. Impressive. So you understand. I don't have time for this. I have a board meeting in 20 minutes. The Meadowbrook people will contact you next week to schedule your move-in. She turned back to her computer. You can see yourself out. I stood up, slowly. Let her think I was frail. Jessica, I said. Yes? Do you remember when you were 12? You wanted to come to work with me. Bring your daughter to work day. She didn't look up. Vaguely, you sat in my office, right where you're sitting now. You said, Daddy, someday I want to be just like you. Do you remember what I said? Dad, I really don't have time for. I said, then you have to remember one thing. Never forget who gave you the opportunity. I wonder if you remember that. She finally looked at me. I've earned everything I have, through hard work and results, not through sentiment. Of course, I nodded. I'll see myself out. I took the elevator down. Marcus, the security guard, waved as I left. I waved back. On the subway ride home, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to Robert Chen, my attorney. We had worked together for 40 years. The second was to the boardroom scheduling coordinator, a detail-oriented woman named Patricia who had been with the company since the beginning. The third was to my accountant. That evening, I sat in my apartment with a glass of scotch, the good stuff, hidden in the back of my closet. Jessica thought I drank cheap beer. Let her think that. My phone rang. David. My son-in-law. Hey, Bill. He was the only one who called me Bill. Everyone else used William. Jess told me about your conversation today. Did she? Listen. I know this seems sudden, but she's right. You know, Meadowbrook is top-notch. My grandmother was there before she passed. You'll love it, I'm sure. And hey, between you and me, it's probably better this way. You're not really built for city life anymore. Too much stress, too much noise. Connecticut will be peaceful, quiet. You can finally relax. Finally, relax. I had been working since I was 14 years old. Built a multi-million-dollar company. Raised a daughter. Buried a wife. But sure, now I could finally relax. Thanks for your concern, David. No problem. Oh, and one more thing. Jess wanted me to ask about your apartment. When you move to Meadowbrook, obviously you won't need it anymore. We were thinking Madison could use it during her Columbia years. Save on dorm fees. You'd be doing us a huge favor. My apartment. The one I paid for. They wanted that too. I'll think about it, I said. Great. I'll tell Jess. Take care, Bill. I sat there for a long time after he hung up, thinking about Margaret. She died of cancer 3 years ago, October. In those final days, when the morphine made everything soft and distant, she held my hand and said, Don't let Jessica take advantage of you. She's ambitious like you, but she doesn't have your heart. Promise me. I had promised. The board meeting was scheduled for Thursday afternoon. I spent Wednesday reviewing documents, financial statements, stock certificates, legal paperwork that most people would find incredibly boring, but I found fascinating. Numbers don't lie. Numbers don't forget who built what. Thursday morning, I put on my best suit. It was old, from 2008, but well-maintained. I polished my shoes. Shaved carefully. At 65, I could still look presentable when I wanted to. I arrived at the building at 1:30. Marcus was at his desk. "Afternoon, Mr. Harrison." I paused. "You know my name?" He smiled. "Course I do, sir. Your picture's in the lobby." He pointed to the wall near the elevators. There was a photograph from the company's 20th anniversary. Me, younger, shaking hands with the governor. Harrison-Meyer Technologies. "You're the Harrison." "I am indeed." "Tell me, Marcus, how long have you worked here?" 3 years, sir." "Do you like it?" "Best job I've had. Good pay, good benefits. Miss Harrison-Meyer runs a tight ship, but she's fair." "I'm glad to hear it." I handed him my visitor badge. "I won't be needing this today." His eyes widened slightly, but he nodded. "Yes, sir." The board meeting was in the main conference room on the 45th floor. I took the elevator up, walked past Jessica's assistant, who looked confused to see me, and opened the conference room door. 10 people sat around the table. Jessica at the head. David next to her, though he wasn't on the board. Robert Chen, my attorney, sitting quietly in the corner with a briefcase. And 7 other board members, VPs, outside investors, the CFO. Jessica looked up, annoyed. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "This is a private board meeting." "I'm aware." I walked to the other end of the table and remained standing. "Good afternoon, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm William Harrison. I founded this company in 1983. Dad, this is completely inappropriate. You need to leave. In a moment. First, I have some business to conduct." I nodded to Robert, who opened his briefcase and began distributing documents. "What you're receiving is a summary of the current stock ownership of Harrison-Meyer Technologies." The CFO, a nervous man named Gregory, adjusted his glasses as he read. His face went pale. "This can't be right." "What?" Jessica grabbed the paper from him. "What is this?" "That is documentation showing that I currently own 65% of Harrison-Meyer Technologies. I hold the controlling interest." The room exploded, everyone talking at once. Jessica's face went from confused to red to white. "That's impossible," she shouted. "You sold the company in 2005. I sold 49% to Meyer Technologies. The agreement, which I believe you'll find in your files, stipulated that I would retain majority ownership while stepping down from active management. I appointed you CEO in 2019 because I believed you were ready. I've been a silent partner, watching from a distance." David leaned over, whispering frantically to Jessica. She shook her head, disbelieving. "This is insane," she said. "Why would you hide this? Why would you let me think?" "Let you think what? That you had built all of this yourself?" I walked slowly around the table. "I wanted to see what you would do with real responsibility. Your mother and I gave you every advantage. Private schools, Yale, an executive position at 28. I wanted to believe you had learned the values we tried to teach you. I have built this company." She stood up, slamming her hand on the table. "Revenue is up 40%. I've secured 3 major contracts this quarter alone." "You have done well," I acknowledged. "The company is thriving. But tell me, Jessica, when you achieved those results, did you ever stop to think about who gave you the opportunity?" Her mouth opened, closed. "2 days ago, you informed me I would be moving to an assisted living facility. You threatened conservatorship. You talked about me as if I were a burden to be managed." I looked around the table. My wife, Margaret, built this company with me. We worked 16-hour days in a garage. We mortgaged our home 3 times. We missed Jessica's school plays and soccer games because we were trying to build something that would last. Gregory, the CFO, was furiously taking notes. The other board members sat in stunned silence. When Margaret was dying, I made her a promise. I promised I wouldn't let our legacy be squandered by someone who valued ambition over integrity. Someone who would see her own father as an inconvenience. "Dad, I was trying to help. You were trying to control. There's a difference." I turned to Robert. "Please distribute the second set of documents." More papers. Jessica grabbed hers, reading quickly. Her hands started shaking. "As majority shareholder, I am exercising my right to call for a vote of no confidence in the current CEO. Additionally, I am proposing the following changes to the executive structure. You can't do this, Jessica whispered. I can and I am. Effective immediately. You are removed as CEO. Gregory, you will assume the role of interim CEO while we conduct a proper search. Jessica, you will be reassigned to Senior Vice President of Regional Development, reporting directly to Gregory. You're demoting me? I'm giving you a chance to learn. Something I should have insisted on years ago. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Saw the shock, the anger, the hurt. You're talented, Jessica. But talent without wisdom is dangerous. Without humility, it's toxic. David stood up. This is outrageous. We'll sue. You'll do nothing, Robert said calmly. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. Angry tears. I built this. I made this company what it is. No, I said softly. We built this, your mother and I, and we built it for you. But we also built it for everyone who works here. For Marcus downstairs who likes his job. For the engineers who create products that matter. For the customers who trust our name. It was never just about you. She sat down heavily, staring at the table. The board will vote on these measures now, I said. All in favor? One by one, hands went up. Even people Jessica had hired. Even her allies. Because at the end of the day, they understood the math. 65% is 65%. Motion passes. I gathered my papers. I'll be in the office tomorrow to begin transition planning. Gregory, please clear your afternoon. We have work to do. I walked to the door, paused, turned back. Jessica, one more thing. My apartment in Queens? I'm keeping it. I like it there. The neighbors are friendly. The rent is reasonable. And nobody treats me like a burden. You and David will need to find another solution for Madison's housing. I left the conference room, took the elevator down, walked through the marble lobby where my picture hung on the wall. Marcus called out, "Have a good day, Mr. Harrison." You too, Marcus. The subway ride home felt different, lighter. I stopped at a grocery store, bought ingredients for a proper meal. Steak, vegetables, a bottle of wine. My phone rang while I was cooking. Jessica, Dad. Her voice was thick. She had been crying. Yes? Why did you do this? I turned down the heat on the stove. Do you really not know? Silence. You called me a burden, Jessica. You spoke about bandwidth. You were going to take my home and put me somewhere I could be managed like an inconvenient detail. I thought I was helping. I thought you needed. You thought I was pathetic. An old man living on Social Security in a rundown apartment. You never asked what I wanted. You never considered that I might have reasons for living the way I do. What reasons? Because your mother and I promised we would never become the kind of people who needed a marble lobby to feel important. Because I wanted to stay connected to the real world, not insulated in some executive bubble. Because I wanted to see if you would still treat me with respect when you thought I had nothing. She let out a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. I failed that test. Yes. What happens now? I added salt to the vegetables. Now you work for Gregory. You learn what it means to be part of a team instead of running it. You prove that you can contribute without needing to control. And maybe, if you do that well, in a few years, we can revisit your role. And us? Our relationship? That depends on you. I'm still your father. I still love you. But I won't accept being treated like an obstacle to your ambition. Another long silence. I'm sorry, she finally said. I'm so sorry, Dad. I know. Sorry is a start. After we hung up, I finished cooking, set the table properly, with the nice plates Margaret had picked out years ago, poured the wine, sat down alone in my small apartment, and ate slowly, savoring each bite. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Then I realized it was Marcus from the lobby. Mr. Harrison, hope this isn't out of line, but I wanted to say thank you. My sister works in the engineering department. She texted me about what happened today. Said you stood up for what's right. That means a lot to people like us. People who actually do the work. I smiled and texted back. Thank you, Marcus. See you Monday. Over the next few weeks, things changed. Jessica showed up to work every day, on time, and actually listened in meetings. Gregory proved to be an excellent CEO, collaborative and thoughtful. David stopped calling me Bill and started calling me William. I moved into a proper office on the 45th floor. I came in 3 days a week, reviewing strategy and mentoring the younger executives. One Saturday morning, 3 months after the board meeting, my doorbell rang. Jessica stood there, with Madison and Chase, my grandchildren. They were carrying grocery bags. Hi, Dad. We brought brunch. Can we come in? I stepped aside. They filed into my small apartment, the one Jessica had been so ashamed of. Madison looked around with genuine interest. Grandpa, this is actually pretty cool. It's like a real New York apartment. Jessica set down the groceries and met my eyes. I wanted the kids to see where you live, to understand that you don't need a fancy penthouse to be happy, to be successful. Chase, who was 15 and usually glued to his phone, looked at me. Dad told me what happened. At the company. He said you're kind of a legend. David said that? Jessica smiled, a real smile. He's been reading about the early days of the company, the garage startup phase. He's actually impressed. It's been good for him. Good for all of us. We made breakfast together. Scrambled eggs, toast, coffee, talked about Madison's college plans, Chase's robotics team, Jessica's new projects at work, normal things, family things. As they were leaving, Jessica hugged me at the door, held on a little longer than usual. I'm proud to be your daughter, she whispered. It took me too long to realize what that means, but I'm getting there. I know you are. After they left, I stood at my window looking out at Queens, the neighborhood Jessica had called unsafe, the building she had called barely habitable. I thought about Margaret, about the promise I had made. I had kept it, not by destroying Jessica, but by teaching her. The same way I had taught her to ride a bike, to solve equations, to negotiate contracts. This was just one more lesson, a harder one, but necessary. My phone buzzed. Robert Chen, William. I have the quarterly reports. The company had its best earnings in 5 years. Gregory wants your input on the expansion strategy. Send them over. I'll review them tonight. You know, you could have taken everything from her. The board would have supported it. I know. But that was never the point. She's my daughter. The goal wasn't punishment. It was correction. Margaret would be proud. I looked at the photo on my shelf. Margaret and I, at our 25th anniversary. Both of us laughing. Both of us happy. I hope so, Robert. I really hope so. That night, I sat down with the quarterly reports. The numbers were good. Strong growth, smart investments, sustainable practices. Jessica had contributed to several of the major wins, working as part of Gregory's team instead of trying to do everything herself. I made notes in the margins, suggestions, not demands, questions, not orders. The kind of guidance a chairman should provide. The kind of wisdom that comes from experience, not ego. My apartment was quiet. Just the hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of traffic. Some people might find it lonely, but I found it peaceful, honest, real. I had built an empire from nothing, lost my wife, nearly lost my daughter. But tonight, reviewing these reports in my modest apartment in Queens, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Content. Jessica would be fine. She was learning, growing, becoming the leader I had always hoped she could be. But now, with the foundation of humility to support her ambition, the company would be fine. In good hands. Built on the values Margaret and I had established 4 decades ago. And I would be fine. Not in some assisted living facility in Connecticut, playing shuffleboard, and waiting to die. But here, in the city I loved, doing work that mattered, connected to people who saw me for who I actually was. Tonight, I had shown my daughter that power isn't about the size of your office or the title on your door. It's about knowing when to step back and when to step up, when to teach and when to trust, when to forgive and when to hold firm. I closed the reports and looked out at the New York skyline. Somewhere, in one of those buildings, Jessica was probably still working. David was probably networking at some event. Madison was studying. Chase was gaming with his friends. And I was here, exactly where I wanted to be. Not a burden, not a relic, not an obstacle. A father who loved his daughter enough to let her fail, and then loved her enough to help her rise. That was worth more than any corner office, any executive title, any amount of marble in the lobby. I raised my glass of scotch to the city lights. To you, Margaret, I kept my promise, and in the quiet of my small apartment, I could almost hear her voice. I know you did, William. I know you did.